Uh, shall I start sharing the screen? Shall I start sharing the screen?
Yes, doctor, yes.
സ്ലൈഡ് കാണാമോ? വിസിബിൾ ആണോ? ഫുൾ ആണോ?
അതെ ഡോക്ടർ കാണാം.
ഓക്കെ. വാഗർത്ഥവ്യോ സംപൃക്തൗ വാഗർത്ഥ പ്രതിപത്തയെ ജഗത പിതരോ വന്ദേ പാർവതി പരമേശ്വരോ. First of all, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to AMA Malappuram for giving me an opportunity to share my views on the practice of Rasaushadhi in my OP. I am not a specialist in Rasa Shastra, first of all. I know many eminent practitioners who have had the taste of practicing uh, Rasaushadhis in the practice abundantly, and I am also grateful for giving me an opportunity to share among those great practitioners who have been practicing uh, Rasaushadhis in a lot of uh, what to say complicated cases in specific clinical conditions, etc. So I will uh, be concising the number of yogas to 8 or 9 yogas, which I practice the most in the OP, and that too with a few combinations also. Let us try to uh, go through all those yogas. But before that, what I feel about the practice is this: in all of us as practitioners, we have two dimensions in our practice. One, we try to minimize the number of medicines in our practice so that there cannot be any sort of confusion. And we practice with those minimum medicines with the best possible permutation and combination to give the best possible result to the patient in a very short interval without much complications. And second dimension in us being a practitioner is having a lot of medicines under our belt so that we are confident enough to face the cases that come to us with the maximum number of choice of medicines, and we are not being cramped or cramped for the space when that particular samprapti is running in a patient, and we won't feel that, oh, if I had that medicine with me it could have been better. So this is second dimension in us. So everybody has this duality in practice. May we begin with maximum number of medicines. Few of them will dump in our clinic on the corner of the cupboard. After a few years, we stop practicing those medicines. We forget about that. And even after a few years, the number of medicines may still go lesser. And then we have already become a senior in practitioner, and we are confident enough to combine, mix, and very specific regarding the result of our prescription. So finally, I think when we are in the fag end of our career, we will all be in the former dimension. with minimum number of medicine and best permutation and combination. But above all, to be successful, both these dimensions in us need to be very focused, which medicine to be given on that particular stage. So the right stage is very important. And second, duality is when we write a prescription where we have 4 or 5 concepts in our mind, where we are aware of the direct indication. We know the medicine acts on this disease because text says so. For example, we know Gandharvastadi Kashaya is Vanirbalaya Ruche Malashodhanaya, or how Ashtavargam Kashayam acts, or how Kaishora Gugulu acts, or how any Taila acts. We know because there is direct indication. So that's not a big issue. The issue lies whether that particular medicine is apt in that particular condition. And second choice in us is we plan accordingly. We ask a lot of questions with the patient. Then we come to a conclusion what condition it is. And then we plan a proper medicine by reading. Once we send the patient after writing our first prescription, we go to home and we write. We write a prescription, and then we go to home and read whether that medicine was correct or what change we have to bring for the betterment of the patient. That is second option. Third option is we just get it right. We write a prescription because we need time. We write an Amapachana in broad sense. We consider the cases in Amavastha or vice versa. If it is not in Amavastha, it's a Purana Avastha condition. We write Brahmana straight away. And then we come to home and we think whether that medicine was correct, because the case is very challenging, or the person is known to us, we need to give result, or the whole family is in our clinic and one more has come with the trust on us. So we again go through the text, we see the prescription, again we read the textbook. But by then, the first prescription might have worked wonders. By 2 weeks or 1 week, the patient comes and he tells very, very good result. So the third option is this. We just get it right. We write an Amapachana in a broad way, or in other cases, we write a Brahmananga and it's just worked right. And fourth option is we follow our instincts. We follow our instincts. When we see the patient, we feel like we're writing this prescription. I think there are a few cases when we see the patient, we feel like writing this medicine. I think this will be absolute perfect in that condition, and this prescription suits him the best. So these 4 things are also in our mind, and we practitioners at times get carried away with all these 4 options. But beyond our explanation, there are a few clinical conditions where we have found excellent result in spite of the samprapti or the clinical condition, or even the stage may not fit to those cases, but still they work wonders because we have seen those medicines working in a very, very in a wonderful manner. So this dimension is also in us. But practicing Rasaushadhi, as far as my teacher had taught me, or what I have learned from my teachers, is not at all coming under this purview, because in Charaka Chikitsa Sthana, there are a few references, so as in other Samhitas also, where there will be a cluster of symptoms, and those cluster of symptoms in a patient will absolutely be correlating or tallying with a few yogas which are not at all mentioned in that particular chapter. So there are such yogas. That may be the reason why Charaka, while mentioning about the treatment, he has mentioned underdose and overdose and their problems. Being underdose means if we put a bucket of water to a burning house, it will not be sufficient. We may need more quantity of water, but the judgment error made us to put only one bucket of water to that whole burning house. So that is equivalent to a being underdosing our prescription. And for an overdose, that is also very easy because we get carried away with a few yogas and we write uh, more than the desirable dose, and that will be just like a small plant in its tender age, tender growth. We are putting one or two buckets of water that may get rotten. So, see how dose and its fixation is very crucial in proper growth of a plant and also extinguishing the fire. Rasaushadhi is just similar when those examples are taken into consideration. If even one pinch of dose is in excess, that can cause detrimental effect on the patient and vice versa. This was the first lesson that I had got from my teachers when I started learning, practicing uh, from the basics. So the mixing of the drug is another factor where the proper mixing of rasaushadis can make 1 plus 1 is equal to 11. It need not be 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So the effect of combination of drugs can also be very, very effective when we think of rasaushadi and its practice. By these things, by these measures in the practice, let us start discussing one yoga after the other by seeing a few cases. This is a case of psoriasis, gutted psoriasis of a small boy who underwent Shodhana Karma and then Rasayana in the form of Rasaushadis. This he had sent from his home. This is another case of sudden eruptive skin lesion in a patient who is having severe gastritis complaint. He is a known case of reflux esophagitis and he developed these sort of rashes. And next visit was very, very encouraging. This is a third case, a case of urticaria. Urticaria, and that too because of eruption of skin lesion because of Bhalataka Rasayana. This is a case of Budd-Chiari syndrome during the treatment, and after the treatment. This is a video. I don't know whether network will permit for seeing this video. While dealing with, we had dealt the case in the line of Vishachikitsa, and if you see the lesion, everything had got vanished. And even his ascites had come down, his bilirubin level, everything he had become quite a bit normal. This is a case of pustular psoriasis and post Virechana and Rasayana. This is a case of sudden eruptive skin lesion, papular bullous eruption. We can see all the stages of a primary infection to a secondary infection or a primary skin lesion to a secondary skin lesion. Out of that, we can see papules, we can see pustules, we can see bullous eruption, infected, and this is what post Shamanaushadi we got this result. This is a case of varicose vein with cellulitis. After the treatment. This is a case of neck bite ulcer, got infected, gangrenous. You can see all the tendons, and even his uh, tendons were totally damaged, and two tendons which were off to those fourth and fifth finger were cut off because of gangrene. Then we got that case, and this was during the healing phase, and this was after the whole treatment. Let us see how the Rasa Yogas together with a few Kashtaushadis. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. My internet, okay. Internet connection unstable connection. And let us see how the combination of yogas I had used to manage all these cases in our OP. First yoga which I use the most is Tapyadiloha. Tapyadiloha, we all know, a very common yoga. It is mentioned in Pandu Roga Chikitsa in Charaka Samhita, as well as there is one Marathi textbook. It's very, very effective for the clinical practitioners. I have written a short form of that, Aushadha Gunadharma Shastra. Aushadha Gunadharma Shastra by Gangadhar Shastri Gune. That's a very practical textbook, and almost all the practicalities and of Rasaushadhis, how we have to use with proper Anupana, everything is mentioned in that. It's a Marathi textbook, the translated version also, Aushadha Gunadharma Shastra. The same yoga is available in Rasatantra Sara Siddha Prayoga Sangraha. That book is also available from it used to be published by Chaukamba, but now Jaipur Publications. I will tell the publication. It's available from Chaukamba also. Rasatantra Sara va Siddha Prayoga Sangraha, published from Jaipur. In all these cases, it's very effective. The dose of tablet we get is 2 rati, 250 milligrams tablet we get, and in the churna form also it is very much available, and it is predominantly Vata Kapahara. Of course, Pitta is a secondary factor, and it acts on Rakta Dhatu. So Rasa obviously comes in the picture, and the first and foremost indication that we get is Panduroga. So Pandu is a junctional disorder actually. When we discuss about the GIT, when we discuss about the Dhatu Parinama concept from Ahara Rasa to Rasa Dhatu to Rakta Dhatu. Now, Panduroga is one of the most important chapter that we have to remember when we practice in a patient of, especially in skin or in a GIT cases. So Tapyadiloha is very effective in the management of Shobha, that is in pedal edema, or in the cases of exertional dyspnea. Shwasa does not mean bronchial asthma. It is exertional dyspnea, which is seen in the cases of Pandu, where may I continue? Am I audible? Am I audible, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, doctor. Yes.
Okay. In the conditions of Panduroga means naturally the case goes towards our observation in this yoga goes towards Shobha, Shwasa, Arochaka, and Kamala. See, these are mentioned in a single yoga with a difference. There are a few conditions which are coming in between. Panduroga, Shobha, Shwasa, and Kamala. This is one cluster of condition that can come to us, where the patient may have Dwara also. Dwara is mainly due to Ama or Rasa Pradoshaja Vikara. Rasa is affected in him. Ama comes to the picture, thereby causing Dwara. In such conditions, together with a very good Amapachana, we can very confidently prescribe Tapyadiloha. The case, a single diagnosis that we can make with all these conditions, Jwara, Panduroga, and Shobha, Shwasa, and Kamala is a condition where Rakta and Rasa are involved with the Jwara. Idiopathic thrombocytopenia, one case, and dengue is another condition. And in all the conditions where platelets and peripheral smear is found uh, disturbed, when we see an alteration in the peripheral smear in the lab investigation, we can think of this Tapya Viloha together with either there can be plenty of options like Shadharana or Shadanga or Drakshadikashaya or Patyakustumbariyadikashaya. Lot of options comes when we discuss about this, and even Punarnavadikashaya also. If we see Punarnavadikashaya Yoga, we can see all these features tallying together. So in that Anupana, we can prescribe Tapya Diloha. Another group of disorder which comes here is Visha, Yakshma, Kushta, and Visheshat Hantyapasmara. And Apasmara is one of the sequelae or complication which is seen in a case of hepatic failure. So it can come on either way. If a case of Visha, that is Garavisha, we have all these symptoms coming together if we see or if we take the history of a patient very particularly. We can get these features together. As a part of Amapachana, we can use Tapyatiloha together with Patola Katarohinyadikashaya or uh, any other combinations which are mentioned in Visha. I think that will be uncontextual if I tell the Prakshepaka for Visha, Pushta, and Apasmara, which induces complication. So for Apasmara, there have been a few cases where I had used Apatantrakari Vati. There is one yoga in Siddha Prayoga Sangraha in the name Apatantrakari Vati. It is available in the market. We can get in the pharmacies. Apatantrakari Vati with the Tapyariloha, and with that, I have got very encouraging result in epileptic patient together with the Rasa and Rakta Dushti. 2 or 3 patients I had admitted in uh, charitable hospital. It's a safe and a heavenly experience to work in charitable hospital where we get a lot of varieties of presentations. People may not be knowing how serious conditions they come, but to our interest, our academic interest and clinical interest, when we take the case by taking time, we can see all these presentations coming in a single case, in a single patient. So, trying out such medicines have always been successful in such conditions. So, 2 or 3 umbrella or cluster of symptoms are there in this single yoga. So, Madhu is specified because Madhu is applicable to all. If you see the quality of Madhu in Ashtanga Hridaya Sutrasthana, we can see it's Isha, Hidma, and Asrapittanu, Ratta, and Pitta, Nut. So, all those dosha or all those factors which enhance the property of Tapyariloha is there in Madhu. And these are a few clinical examples that we try usually, where platelet is seen altered or fever is there. And also in the conditions of Pandu for small children, we can have a combination of Tapyariloha together with the Promigna Vatika. That is also very effective. In small children, we can write even half BD dose together with any Anupana. For example, Bringaraja Swarasa, or uh, even with the plain water or ghee, whichever condition his Agni demands, we can prescribe this Tapyadiloha together with our drug of choice. And I have tried with the stroke patients, or this was from my college days where my teacher used to practice using Tapyadiloha and Abrakavasma together. That has given a very wonderful result with the stroke pathology, stroke patients, and the combination also was very effective in the line of Rakta Pradoshaja Vikara. If we see Shonitaja Roga Samprapti, there also we can see Rakta and Pitta together with that. Kleda is running in the patient, and wherever we need to give a penetrating drug, we should use Abraka Basma together with that, because Abraka is considered to be the most lightest drug available, because it's very lagu. Synonym itself is Akasha, and there is nothing lighter than Akasha. So Abrakabasma, if combined with the Tapyadiloha, the reachability increases to many times. Dadimadigrata, Pandu, and where Amavastha is past, GIT is the only thing we have to manage. In that, Dadimadigrata, Tapyadiloha is a good combination. One tablet twice daily with half teaspoon of Dadimadigrata. And Piyushavalli Rasa is another drug which is mentioned in Grahani. Piyushavalli Rasa is in Vaishajya Ratnavali, Grahani Rogadikara, where it is mentioned in Purana Grahani, old cases of Grahani, where Pandu and Grahani, interestingly, Pandu and Grahani is mentioned one after the other. In Charaka, 15th chapter is Pandu, sorry, Grahani, and 16th chapter is Pandu. So both are mentioned together because Samprapti goes in that way in every patient. So Piyusha Rasa for Grahani and Tapyadiloha for Pandu works very good. Now Takra should be the Anupana. In those conditions, Takra should be the Anupana. Both these drugs are very cheaply available, not very costly, and it's not a burden to the patient. Next yoga is Nityananda Rasa. Nityananda Rasa is from Vaishajya Ratnavali. The available reference of Nityananda Rasa is from Ayurveda Formulary of India, AFI. So AFI has taken the reference from Vaishajya Ratnavali. And if we see, there is only one context, that is Shlipada. So Shlipada has many dimensions again. One, Puranodaka Bhuishtaha Sarvaratushu Kitalaha. I think I am not mentioning too much of theory, because the Samprapti for this Nityananda Rasa and Shlipada, the condition itself is Kleda predominant. And Kleda predominant for Vata and Kapha. If we see, I have marked a few references. That is our area of interest. Kapha Vatottham, the conditions with the Kapha Vata predominant. If we see, Kapha should be the predominant factor than Vata in such conditions. Rakta Mamsottidashchayat, Rakta and Mamsa. So Utthana Dhatu conditions where Kapha and Vata are predominant. Kapha Vata Rakta is the name, single name that we can give. Kapha Vata Rakta. That too Utthana Vata Rakta. A case of multiple joint pain with swelling, slight rise of temperature, who has a habit of uh, failure in following a proper diet, in spite of knowing that his joint condition is not so good, and he is a little bit of the obese, and Meda level is about to get affected, borderline obese patient. In such conditions, we can think of writing Nityananda Rasa together with any other combination, our drug of choice. Medogatam, Dhatugatam. This is for a Gambhira Dhatu condition where we have to change the Anupana, where the clinical condition can go up to malignancies of GIT or malignancies related to uh, muscle related, or Rakta, Mamsa, Gata, or even up to Medo Dhatugata condition of malignancies, we can prescribe Nityananda Rasa. I had prescribed Nityananda Rasa with Vriddhi Vadikavati. There is another, this is another yoga. Vriddhi Vadikavati is from Siddha Prayoga Sangraha. It is very cheap yoga, not very costly. 1 rupee for 20 paise per tablet. Vriddhi Vadikavati together with Nityananda Rasa for 2 cases of malignant melanoma. Of course, I had used Chiratai Thailam for external application. Chiratai Thailam is also available. Chiratai Thailam. Chiratai means coconut shell. The oil prepared out of coconut shell. It's a Dhruti yoga. Just burn that Chiratai or coconut shell. You will get a very thick coal tar consistent oil, which is a little bit Tikshna in nature. It's available in the market. And that Chiratai Thailam was given for application on the periphery, not on the center, on the periphery, just for trying out Upashaya. And she was a patient from Valancheri itself, and another patient was from Kottakkal. And in both the conditions, the lesion had drastically come down. Only 2 yogas I had used, one Nityananda Rasa and Vriddhi Vadikavati. Vriddhi Vadikavati is actually for Vriddhi. Hernia will be the indication if we see, but the contents are more favorable towards a lesion which creeps, which grows, which gets Vriddhi constantly. So keeping that thing in mind, I had tried with the Vriddhi Vadikavati and Nityananda Rasa with the external application of Chiratai Thailam. Maybe Chiratai Thailam was a very important drug that might have worked in bringing the lesion down, not allowing it to grow. And a few days before, another case had come with the same presentation, not a malignant lesion, but a very big mole on the face, which it was a cosmetic problem, as well as that lady's grandchild used to always bite on that, a small child. So she started getting irritated because of that, and I had suggested this same Chiratai Thailam only, nothing else. Uh, we had seen the lesion getting the stalk or that base of that big mole getting smaller and smaller, and it had come out from one side. So such good encouraging results we can expect from this Chiratai Thailam only. So for our tea, we had given Nityananda together with Vriddhi Vadikavati for that malignant melanoma, and Vata Pitte Kleshma Mate. That is another condition where we have to suspect a GIT involvement of the condition, and also Visha together with that, because any undigested material, any Amavisha which is in Amashaya will obviously show the features of Kaphavataja clinical conditions or disorders. Any Amavisha which is remaining in Pakvashaya will show the symptoms related to Vata Pitta, probably bleeding piles, or fistula in ano, or fissure, or a case of chronic ulcerative colitis, or a presentation of IBD. All such a Visha which is there in the body. Visha is inverted comma. I would like to say Amavisha, which is remaining in the body for a long time. So Vata Pitte, Shleshma Vate are actually the site of those ama, and prolonged residing of those ama in Amashaya will obviously lead to a disorder which is predominant with Vata Kapha. There, especially plain abdomen, or a clinical condition like a case of subclinical level of appendicitis or pancreatitis, such clinical conditions in initial stages where we have to make sure that there is no much complication like strangulations or severe infection, or the condition is getting worse, that we have to take care of with the constant follow-up. Nityananda Rasa is effective. So Vata Pitta, in the case of Pakvashaya, I already mentioned. In all these conditions, we can use this medicine. Raktaje, Pittaje, Chapi. Raktaje, Pittaje also Patyam, Yogyam, Sada Budaihi. Don't forget to advise proper Patya. in the condition of Raktaje and Pittaje, because the medicine is very Tikshna, very Tikshna. That is why we can afford, we can take a risk as the requirement of the case in the conditions of Raktaja and Pittaja origin with proper Patya. Klipadadikara is the only hint that we get, but Klipada gives a lot of information to us. One, Kleda, our climate, where there is water logging in the rainy season and in the winter season also. And in summer, if we get a few rain, again the water will be lodged in our in the vicinity everywhere. Now mosquitoes will begin. So such Anupa or Anupa Sadharana Desha, Nityananda Rasa will be very effective to keep in our stock. So Kapavatahara, I mentioned, Saktadushkihara, Bhavana Vitrivrit, Chitraka Danti and Haritaki Kashaya. Why Gunja Matra is the tablet? In the textbook, Pancha is mentioned. But the medicine tablet available in the market is 250 milligrams. And those 250, we can write 1 BD or up to 1 TID dose with proper Patya. Klipada, I already told, where we suspect a Kaphadika Vatarakta or Kaphaja Shotha in nature and in the conditions of Pita Pitta. Now comes the role of GIT, where I mentioned the sudden eruptive skin lesions because of the ama residing in Amashaya, where if that pitta comes out, it can be seen or it can be considered as a resultant due to food, urticarial rashes, or udarda and kota, which remains for a longer duration. It came, the symptoms exacerbated and vanished by half an hour. No, there the involvement of vata and pitta will be very predominant. But in a sort of different presentations where the lesions will be there prolonged one day and the lesion will be very thick and the patient will feel tired and the patient will also feel pain on the articarial lesions. In such conditions, Nityananda Rasa is quite handy for us, and I prescribe Nityananda Rasa together with the Abhayarishta, Kotajarishta, depending upon the condition. And Shakotaka Kashaya is another drug. Shakotaka is Paruva. In Malayalam, it is called Paruva. Paruva Pata is available in broader market. Shakotaka is Tribulus asper. Botanical name is Tribulus asper. And it's a bit Tikshna, but Shakotaka Kashaya, I had a few years before, I had prepared Shakotaka Kashaya, and because of patients started getting gastritis, I shifted my medicinal yoga to Shakotaka Churna, Bhavita, Tripala Kashaya, Bhavita, Shakotaka Churna, and prepared a tablet of it and used to write Shakotaka tablet. Of course, there was Tripala together with that. Shakotaka Churna was prepared, and tablet was prepared by Tripala Kvata Bhavana because gastritis possibilities were very, very high. Patients started complaining of gastritis because of Shakotaka Kashaya. So Shakotaka tablet was prepared, and together with that Nityananda Rasa was advised. In those conditions also, I had got very encouraging result in allergic rhinitis or seasonal upper respiratory infections. In the conditions where we see eosinophil counts very high, that was also very effective. And in a few cases, I had written, there is a tablet called, it's a patent compound, R&H compound, patent medicine. It has one famous very effective in skin as well as GIT. It acts on both conditions. So I have tried with that, but the best result that I had got was in the GIT condition, and that urticaria is associated with pain, and it remains there for one day or quite more longer time. Such conditions, Nityananda Rasa is effective together with Abhayarishta, Kutajarishta, or even in acute Pittaja cases. I had tried with the Paripatthadi Kashaya. Paripatthadi Kashaya is another yoga which is available in the market. Sandu Brothers, their patent medicine. They prepare Paripatthadi Kada. Sandu Brothers from North India. It's a patent yoga, very good Vata Pitta Shamana, and it's also very effective to be used with that Paripatadikada together with the Pravala Panchamrita Rasa that I will tell in that context. So, in all these or Kapalika clinical condition of an upper GIT or in a Vata Pitta condition of lower GIT with proper Pathya, Pitta Samstriktata, bleeding piles, or case of fistula in anus, or in a case of Vrana, such condition, we can try with Nityananda Rasa. This was the yoga which I just mentioned, Pravala Panchamrita Rasa. Two drugs are available in market. One is Mukta Yukta. If you see the first line, Pravala Mukta Phalashanka Shukti. Out of that, because of making this medicine cost effective and easily accessible, Mukta in one combination, Mukta will be avoided. So that is plain Pravala Panchamrita Rasa. And if Mukta is added, Pravala Panchamrita Rasa, in bracket they will write Mukta Yukta. That is very costly, near about 12 to 14 rupees per tablet. Plain Pravala Panchamrita is also available. That is a little bit cheaper, 4 or 5 rupees. It is available per tablet. And very interesting thing is, it can be prescribed in Paitika cases, especially in the case of urticaria, or we suspect a samprapti of Ashayapakarsana. Whole body will be burning. Patient complains about a feeling of warmth. And even a few patients, we should take history to the core. Okay, that is very, very important, because one or two symptoms missed is a total link is lost. Two or three symptoms, if we miss in the patient, the whole connection will be lost and our prescription will go some. One simple question is enough to elicit whether you feel always a feeling of warmth in you. In winter season also you need fan or you need AC, or in reverse, even in summer season, whether you feel like keeping away from fan or you feel a lot of intolerance to cold, that decides which medicine we should prescribe. In the former condition, without any reason, if the patient mentions a feeling of warmth or Pitta Prakopa, Pravala Panchamrita Rasa is a very good yoga, even though it is mentioned Kapha Marutothan, that is pertaining to GIT. Now, there is a very huge Samprapti debate why Pravala Panchamrita is used in measles, in chickenpox, in the cases of burning sensation, in Pitta Prakupitavastha, in spite of mentioning the first dosha shamakatva effect as Kapamarutothan. There is a concept called Ashayapakarsha and Jvara Samprapti, where the Agni naturally will be put out from its natural site. Pitta will be put out from its natural site. That Pitta, when starts prasara or getting sthana samshraya to other parts, the patient starts feeling that Pitta in the body, all over the body. And it is that feel where the patient senses all these warmth or burning sensation, or a sort of peripheral neuropathy pattern, a neurological condition, a diabetic patient complaining about burning sensation on this, on the extremities. In all such conditions, inside in the GIT, the working factor will be Kapha Marutotan, because if we see Ashayapakarsha, the culprit is Vata, but we punish Pitta, right? Uh, the shloka itself goes in this form, where Vata is predominant and Pitta is very much normal. Prakritistam yada Pittam Marutaha Kleshmanaha Kshay. And Maruta is high, Kleshmanaha is low, and Pitta is normal. So this Vata drags the Pitta all over the body, and where there is the susceptibility of a clinical condition, Sanga form. It can be in the form of headache or vascular headaches, or in the form of reflux esophagitis or constant vomiting or burning sensation, or a patient complaining about warmth, feeling of warmth all over the body, in the condition of pain predominant post pitta, that is post herpetic neuralgia pattern of presentations. This holds good. Valla Pramana is the dose. That is 2, oh, I have not written. 2 Gunja, again 250 milligram tablet is available in the market. And Bala Graharto, Paramam Prashastam, in children where we think Rakta is the involving factor in that Vata Vyadhi. We can see Shitoshna Snigdha Roksha Samyak Sadhyana Siddhyanti, where we are doing Sweda, no result is available in Shita Kriya or Ushna Kriya or Snigdha Kriya or Ruksha Kriya. Think of Rakta. If the Rakta is predominantly showing the features of burning sensation or Kleda Samsrishta, or the area of Rakta is in Urdhva Jatrugata, Pravala Panchamrita is a choice. Especially, there is a combination called Brahmi Drakshadi Kashaya in Jwaradikara. Brahmi Drakshadi Kashaya in Jwaradikara. It's available in the market. Kotakali. Ariyodishala prepares Brahmi Drakshadi Kashaya. In children as well as in adults, in such burning sensation or peripheral involvement of such features are there, Pravala Panchamrita is a very good choice for us. And Meha Mayam, I have not tried in Meha Samprapti because confidence is a big thing. Confident with other drugs, that's what I can say. Meha Mayam I have not tried. Mutra Roga, Mutra Krichra, all those areas specify UTIs. I have not tried with the UTI or urinary with Pravala Panchamrita, but all the other clinical conditions are well managed with the proper Anupanas. Combination was Purna Chandrodaya. It is not Siddha Makaradwaja. Vaishya Ratnavali, we have one Khalviya Rasayana Yoga, Purna Chandrodaya. It is specifically indicated in GITs, that to lower GITs. That's why I mentioned that Vata Pitta Rogi, he has an acute exacerbation of those symptoms. Everything was under control, doctor. I went to a function, had a few apatya, suddenly started getting bleeding. Pravala Panchamrita together with Purna Chandrodaya Rasa. And even Pushyana Vachurna comes to action. Pushyana Vachurna is also very, very effective in controlling those sort of bleeding. And milk is Anupana. Milk is the Anupana. And there is one controversy in the preparation because you can see Artha Kshira Bhavana, but we get Kshira Bhavita from the companies. Kshira Bhavita Pravala Panchamrita Rasa is available, and Kshira is the Anupana. I don't know how they maintain its shelf life in spite of that. So Artha Kshira Bhavana will be more effective. It's theoretical now. Probably that Kapha Vataja action might have been because of this Artha Kshira Bhavana, but many of the companies are claiming to have Kshira Bhavita Mukta Yukta Pravala Panchamrita Rasa, and that is available in Churna form. In Churna form, not in the tablet form. Vata Kapahara, I mentioned all those conditions, and in dermatological condition, especially in those burning sensation or acute onset of measles or this chicken pox, we can try with the or Gopi Chandranadi. Instead of Gopi Chandranadi, we can definitely, in the case of chickenpox also, I usually opt in the conditions of pemphigoid lesions or even for subsiding pitta in pemphigus lesions or chickenpox or for children in the case of measles. On all those conditions, Pravala Panchamrita has been very helpful in the practice. And one more yoga together with this Pravala Panchamrita is Paripathadi Kada. It is available in market. Kandu Brothers, I contact with them and keep it for especially in these conditions. And Urdhogam Ravit I mentioned, Roshan Margamana Twak and Vataroga I mentioned. And one thing is, this drug is named as Rasa, but there is no Parada in it. That is one speciality of this yoga. No Parada is mentioned in this yoga, but still it is called Pravala Panchamrita Rasa. Next is Chandrakala Rasa. It is mentioned in Mutra Krichra, but out of that Mutra Krichra, there are a lot of applicabilities in skin disorder as well as even for infertility conditions. This yoga is from Bhava Prakasha, Mutra Krichra Adhikara, and available Chandrakala Rasa is from AFI. This reference is also from AFI part 1. Yoga Ratnakara, Mutra Krichra Adhikara, and if we see the indications that is very characteristic. Fever is the basic factor here, and that fever is due to infective condition, but the vision will be somewhere else. For example, a case of sudden onset of irritant contact dermatitis or eczema, oozing eczema. Patient started getting inguinal lymphedema with fever. With our prescription, one Chandrakala Rasa can be added. Instead of 2 or 3 medicines, we can comfortably cut off 2 prescriptions, 2 medicines from the prescription, and add one Chandrakala Rasa together with that. The lesion will get dried. Very, very fast relief, because Dwara is one of the indications in Chandrakala Rasa, and that too in Sri Roga practice, Chandrakala Rasa is also very, very useful, especially in the conditions of Rakta Pradara or Shweta Pradara, which is infected, and there is fever running because of that infective condition. Chandrakala Rasa is very useful. Again, not very costly yoga, less than 2 rupees for yoga, 1 tablet. And Mutra Roga, in almost all UTIs, we try with that. There are a few conditions where we had a lot of setbacks by trying all these things, but still, as per Charaka's advice, Pariksha Karinahi Kushala Bhavanti. So as Ashtanga Sangraha, keep on trying cases, we can get very good results. Beyond the limit, no option. So in the conditions of cystitis or even in hematuria, we had tried with cases with the results. So as in the cases of atopic dermatitis, where the patient complains of burning sensation and oozing, Chandrakala Rasa is very effective. Bhunimbadikada is another yoga. The reference is from Charangadhara Samhita. Bhunimbadikada is in Grahani and Amlapitta, and it's effective in Mutra Roga Adhikara, because if we see Grahani, a case associated with the Grahani, Charaka Chikitsasana 15th chapter, Mutra Rogam Mutrasthan Kuryat Rogan Prasadijan is one shloka from Charaka. So if we see Chakrapani commentary, he mentions very beautifully that a case of exacerbation of Grahani, when there is Grahani GIT predominant features, he will have the symptoms related to Mutra. In such conditions, Chandrakala Rasa together with Bhunimbadi Kashaya works very good. So Trinapanchamola Kashaya is also available, typical for UTIs. Instead of trying with the other yogas, we can manage the cases with these 2 yogas, Trinapanchamola Kashaya and Chandrakala Rasa. And Lajjaluk Shira for Rakta Pradara, Chandrakala Rasa with the Lajjaluk Shira Paka, Mimosa Pudic, Panchanga, Shira Paka. And together with that, 1 glass, and taking it in divided dose by powdering 2 or 3 tablets of Chandrakala Rasa. That is also very effective. And also Ixtoracoccemia, Paranti Mula Shirapaka is very effective together with the Chandrakala Rasa. I had tried with not here, few years before, Chandrakala Rasa 1 TID together with the Kshirapata of Ixoracoccinia root in a case of PA uterus. Uh, the patient had gained weight and she had a subjective improvement, but later it was in Udupi actually when I started my career. Then I started my career here, so case was lost. But she had got very good result with that Ixoracoccinia. In almost all those uterine or those Kati Pradesha, Rakta and Pitta involved condition. Lajjalu, and one step ahead, more than effective than Lajjalu is Ixoracoccinia. And Mrityunjaya Rasa, again another very common yoga. It is available in the market. Jwaradhikara in Vaishyaja Ratnavali. Reference is from AFI. One Rati Pramana, Ardraka Swarasa, and Anupana is also Ardraka Swarasa. Vata Kapahara drug, and Jwara and potent Amapachana. Very potent Amapachana because in upper respiratory, in lower respiratory, in Jwara, in RA, and in initial cases of musculoskeletal disorders and neurodegenerative conditions, Mrityunjaya Rasa, just like Brihat Vata Chintamani or other conditions like Vata Gajankusha, yeah, it works in the later stages once Amapachana is attained. We suspect a Kaphavrutatva, right, in the conditions like MND or neurodegenerative condition, where we have to think of Dhatu Gata Ama. Mrityunjaya Rasa is very effective. And fever, if we see Jwaradhikara, we can get almost all the disorders. I need not tell that. Right? Jwara in Karaka or Jwara in Ashtanga Hridaya is an encyclopedia. It contains almost all the multi-system involvement disorders in Jwara, where Charaka has specifically mentioned n number of conditions. Jwara together with Shwasa, Jwara together with Raktabita, Jwara together with Sandhivedana, Jwara together with Atisara. If we see almost all the 29 disorders mentioned in other chapters, he has clubbed Jwara as one of the features and mentioned yogas for that. Almost all the yogas may contain potent Tamapachana, that to Dhatugata level. So out of which one or two references lead us towards neurodegenerative conditions or the cases of GB or polymyositis or the case of even in the case of Kaphavritatva. Mrityunjaya Rasa is a very good choice. Only depends upon how we give with Anupana. In the case of lower GIT ama, we can think of Jiraka Jala, and in the case of neurodegenerative Ampachana, we can think of Narikelodaka, or in the case of Jwara and upper GIT, you can think of Ardraka Swarasa, and the combination is also very characteristic. Mrityunjaya Rasa with the LSR, Lagusutta Shekhar Rasa, that is also available in market. Mrityunjaya Rasa with the Lagusutta Shekhar Rasa in upper respiratory, recurrent allergies. Patient is having continuous sneezing, dust allergy. In such condition, together with the LSR, where only upper respiratory is the culprit. Allergy is the factor. And there are other few clinical conditions where GIT is the culprit, and that causes Pratishaya. Chakritah Pindikoddveshta Pratishaya Tirorujaha Urdhvayu Parikartu Hridayasyoparodhanam. Chakrit Vegadarana. If we get the history, just change Lagusutta Shekhar Rasa, together with that add Arogyavardhini Rasa. We will get very good result. Mrityunjaya Rasa with Arogyavardhini Rasa. Only the culprit should be GIT. Now, if the patient is complaining of a clinical presentation of kapha predominance with an infective pathology, for example, tonsillitis, laryngitis, or a sort of ama is running in him and a feverish presentation is there, we can think of Triphala Gugulu together with Mrityunjaya Rasa. So, three dimensions of same presentation. Plain upper respiratory, Lagusutta Shekhar Rasa is a very good choice. And together with the GIT, Arogyavardhini is very good choice together with that. And if an inflammatory condition is suspected with tonsillitis or laryngitis, we can opt Triphala Gugulu with the Mrityunjaya Rasa, and Ardraka Swarasa is very good choice. Jiraka Jala, I told, control. So this is a very huge, big area in Mrityunjaya Rasa and Laghu Sudeshekara Rasa, AFI reference, and it is there in almost all the books. Very, very effective yoga, cheaply purchasable. Patient is also not having much burden. Swarnagairika, Shunti Churna, and Tambula Swarasa. Already told one or two uses of this. Aushadha Gunadharma Shastra mentions a very long list of anupanas, and Rasatantra Sara Siddha Prayoga Sangraha is also having this reference, and I have taken this reference from AFI. This reference is from Ayurveda Formulary of India, Part 2. Tambula Swarasa is Bhavana, 2 Rati Pramana, Shiranupana. Red tablet, brick red tablet. We can't think of an ash color or off color of white. No color can be expected because the predominant drug is Swarnagairika. So the drug has to be Kavi color, that is brick color, or else the tablet, and it should taste spicy. Tambula should be felt on the tongue, that taste. Only a few company prepares with that taste. I won't tell which, but the color is very characteristic. If that is not the color, now it is better to skip to another company because many North Indian pharmacies prepare, but the color is not acceptable to us. But it's actually brick red in color. And 2 Rati Pramana, Shira is the Anupana. Shira is the Anupana. Even though it is felt like the drug is Tikshna, because Tambula is there, and the Shunti is there, Varnagairika is there. Very good Pitta Shamana drug. Just like I mentioned, Laghu Sudeshekara Rasa with Arogyavardhini Rasa in GIT conditions where we need Anulomana, Kleda Shoshana, and LSR with MNJ, I told, and in Pachaka Pitta, Kleda related condition, and GIT is the culprit, I told, Arogyavardhini, and LSR is also a good choice. And one more thing is Kamadudha Rasa. I would like to add one more drug to the combination. Kamadudha Rasa, LSR, Laghu Sudeshekara Rasa with the Kamadudha Rasa in Dwara. That is, somebody drenches in rain, comes to immediately he starts getting sneezing, and already he has a sort of sneezing and dry cough, but he has not developed a fever. LSR with Kamadudha Rasa is a very good choice. And in the case of urticaria, I have already told the Samprapti. And in the case of atopic dermatitis, where we need Pitta Shamana, and in the conditions of the acid peptic disease, where Kleda is the culprit, we need to dry it down. And Ama is there, Ama Visha is there. Gairika is, Swarna Gairika is actually a very good Vishahara drug also. So in that sense also, LSR is very, very effective. So combination I told, Mrityunjaya Rasa I mentioned, Arogyavardhini Rasa in Pitta, where we need Anulomana effect, and GIT is involved, and Tripala Gugulu I told in especially in inflammatory conditions where Pitta is predominant, not Kapha Vata, and in Gandhaka Rasayana in the cases of eczema. LSR with Gandhaka Rasayana oozing. Gandhaka Rasayana tablet is available actually. Tablet is available. So we can use Gandhaka Rasayana together with that. And for fever, Mrityunjaya Rasa and LSR with Amrita Reshta or Bhonimbadi Kashaya in the case of APD. We can have a number of combinations, but need not have Arishta or Kashaya for a support. Only these two medicines in combination can act very effectively. Rasabra Gugulu is another one for Vata Rakta, Gambhira Vata Rakta, psoriasis, psoriatic arthropathy. In the case of Pravruddha Amavata, where Rakta is involved, and if we talk about the textbook Samprapti, Raktena Avaritaha Patihi or Vata. Rakta is the culprit, Vata is obstructed. that is inflammatory monoarthritis, inflammatory conditions of pain or joint pain, fleeting type of pain where rakta is involved. Rasabragogulu is very effective. Parada, Loha, Dandaka, Tatsama, Loha, all this yoga is also available in the market. This is a little bit cost 2 or 3 rupees per tablet. Bhajaja Ratnavali, Vatarakadikara, the 6 gram is the dose actually. Polak Praman, 6 gram, but 6 gram tablet is not available. We can get at the most 1 gram tablet is available. So, as per the textbook dose, we will have to go 2 grams thrice daily, which is not practically possible. Patient may start getting GIT problems. So, better to stick on to the standard dose of 1 BD or at the most 1 TID. Guduchi Kashaya is the Anupana. Quite a bit confident that we should use Guduchi as Kashaya Anupana, Guduchi Adi Kashaya or Vasa Guduchi Adi Kashaya or any other options that according to the Samprapti it fits. We can think of writing Rasabragugulu together with the, that particular Kashaya or Churna. Vata Kapahara, Raktadhatu involved, Vata Rakta, Kushta, Raktadhatu told already, psoriasis and psoriatic arthropathy. Lot of Rasabragugulu prescriptions goes from the OP and especially in these clinical conditions. Tripala Kashaya for Anulomana effect, added Anulomana effect together with Rasabragugulu and Mahamanjishtadi Kashaya post Shodhana after discharge, Mahamanjishtadi Kashaya together with Rasabragugulu. That is also very effective. And the next 2 yogas may be not very common in the practice because they are not mentioned in conventional your textbooks. Jiva Raksha Gutika, it's a Vishahara yoga. It is mentioned in Sarpa Visha Pratisheda of a book called Prayoga Samuchayam. This one is not available in the market. We have to prepare. It's a very potent medicine because Vanga, Haratala, Parada, Manashila, Ingula, Tankana, Tutta, Patika, Gandhaka is not Shodhita. So we have to think not twice, maybe more than that before prescribing this yoga. Unless and until it is very, very necessary, we can write. Or to our satisfaction, to our confidence, we need to get a properly Shodhita minerals. I mean, all the minerals mentioned in this should be properly Shodhita and Marana should be done, and then only we can use. I am using in that way also. Properly Shodhita all these Rasaushadhis and then prepare a tablet out of this. And the Bhavana Dravya is Arka Patra Varasa. Savishagada with Vata Kapashamana. Vata Kapashamana. That's why in non-healing ulcers, in a non-responding psoriasis, in autoimmune disorders like SLE or psoriasis, psoriatic arthropathies, I use it as a rasayana, not as a first line of treatment. Not writing just because that it should not be just like pouring 2 buckets of water to a small plant. Overdose should not be there from my side. So I'm not using it as a first line prescription. Post Shodhana as a rasayana in almost all these, may it be ulcers that we saw, may it be psoriasis or in autoimmune disorders, we can use this. The tablet is 2 gram is the dose, but it looks very small. It is very small, but because the ingredients like Arkavatra Swarasa or Vanga Parada makes it a little bit heavy. 1 OD is the dose, and when to stop by 1 month. Definitely not more than that. We can get result. Pustular psoriasis, if you remember that hand and foot of a male patient, it was used as a rasayana. In that cobra bite cases, it was used as a first line treatment. And in almost all the skin ulcer and the conditions which I have not added the photographs of those cases, only 2 or 3, but very, very effective as a rasayana in autoimmune disorders. And the cases where we suspect Vata and Kapha and no involvement of Rakta. If there is involvement of Rakta, that is Vata, Kapha or Vata Rakta in the involvement, this is the choice. Taruna Bhaskaram, Gutika. This is not as potent or as, what to say, a huge combination of Prasadya Aushadha. This is also a little bit, what, we have to be a little bit careful, and this is the area of applicability. Vata, Kapha Shamana with the Rakta involvement. In the case of ankylosing spondylosis or multiple sclerosis, I have been using this drug. And when to stop, I have not yet stopped. Tablet is going on for the past 1 or 2 years. The tablet is continuously, the patient is taking, and frequently checking RFT and LFT. Luckily, no such issues are there. So they are all running properly. So this is also very handy drug for us. Vata Rakta, Asti Majjagata Vatava. I even told the diagnosis. These are all the conditions that I am using it, and not as a Rasayana, but as a Shamanaushadha and a carry-on dose. So this was the sloka that I first learned in second profession BMS, where I had thought Siddhe Rase Karishyami Nirdaridyamidam Jagat means by making the rasa into Siddha Rasa, I will cause Nirdaridya in the Jagat. Then I came to know that was not the right way of interpretation of the shloka. It's a continuous process. As the rasa is getting purified to Siddhatva, the Nirdaridyatva will gradually pass off. That is, it's a continuous process. So let us use Rasaushadhi to make Nirdaridyamidam Jagat. That too in a judicious way. So Siddhe Rase Karishyami is grammatically, it can be put in this way. Both are in a directly proportional way. Rasa Siddhatva is a journey, so as Nirdarityatva is also a journey. When it is complete, it is left to the nature and the Vaidya. Thank you. Over to the organizer. If at all any questions are there, please ask.
Thank you, sir. If our participants are having any doubts, they may please put their doubts in the chat box or raise their hands for the questions. You may please put your questions in the chat box, participants.
Now, is PPT available? No problem. No need to. I will forward the PPT. No issue. I will follow the PPT. I will to the organizers. You can have the PPT.
Okay, sir.
But one thing, with your permission, the cases will be deleted from that PPT. They are from our hospital OP. Other things I will definitely share.
Any more doubts, participants? Yes, sir, we have a doubt in the chat box. Shall I read it for you, sir?
Any complications noticed? Uh, till date, probably no, because if at all any such things had to be there, uh, in all those cases, which I feel like probably this can uh, cause a little bit complication because all the yogas we cannot rely upon, like so not included. For example, in the yogas like a very toxic combination, uh, I try to get LFT and RFT checked and make sure nothing is uh, under process. A new disorder is under process. So till date, no.
So, thank you. Participants, do you have any more doubts? Please post it in the chat box. Yeah. One more question is raised, Dr. Sir. Anything about mercurials in Siddha medicine, sir?
Medicine, Siddha medicine, I have not used, not seen. Only a few medicines. Kiratai Thailam is actually a Siddha medicine that I am using. And there was one another medicine called Mushu Mushu Kai. That also I used to practice for the past 5 or 6 years because it is not, the supply is not proper. That too I have to stop. And Peranda Barpam was used a few years before. That also is not getting proper supply. Other than that, mercurial yogas I have no experience in that too from the Siddha medicine. Sorry, Siddha, only these three medicines I have used. In our side, our textbook, for example, from Siddha Prayoga Sangraha and all, a lot of yogas with the Parada are there. That to properly processed Parada had never caused such adverse drug reactions or complications. Uh, in, if at all, they are properly prepared, and we should get it from a reliable company because to the best possible level, we try to get medicine from those companies, reliable companies, and rarely shift from one company to the other. If this is not available, okay, you can use other company. That I had never tried for the past 14 years. Only one or not, if not the second option, no third option I had tried. So, and also nowadays I have started relying upon a few individual doctors who prepare Rasaushadhi. I get to Swarna Yogas like Siddha Makaradvaja or uh, the yogas which have Mukta or uh, such costly medicines, and where I need a little bit be cautious from individual doctors who prepare medicine just to be on the safer side.
Okay, sir, thank you. Is participants any more doubts? No more doubts, I guess, sir. Shall we wind up the class, Dr. Rushni? Doctor?
Definitely, doctor. Definitely.
Okay, sir. With your permission, we shall move on to the vote of thanks. Uh, Thank you, sir, for the vibrant, descriptive class and the detailed patient answering of our participant doubts. Hope our participants had enjoyed the perfect blend of the PPT with the explanations, which could be readily put into our day-to-day practice. Thank you, sir. It was a very precise and very practical-oriented class. Thank you very much, sir. On behalf of AMI Malappuram, I thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity also.
Yes, sir. Thank you.